Good day, my name is Ms P Tlakula. I'm here to teach Life Science Grade 10 under the topic Support and Transport Systems in Plants. The learning outcomes for my lesson today is that at the end of this lesson, learners will be able to describe the external and internal structures of a leaf, discuss how structures support photosynthesis, gaseous exchange, and water regulation. And also, learners will understand substance movement such as water, gas, and the sugars. How do plants survive without sense of or movement? If plants don't have legs to move, hands to hold, mouth to eat, ears to hear, or eyes to see, how do you think they survive and even thrive in some of the world's harshest environment, just like animals and humans do? Have you ever wondered about that? Plants are organized systems that live a stationary life in one place. Plant cannot move away from changing environmental conditions like humans and animals do. So the plant support system needs to deal with changes in the environment during its lifetime and adjust to the organisms growing larger year by year. An essential part of a plant is its transport system that moves substances from root to leaf and back again. Organized systems of plants. Plants are made up of cells. The cells grow and multiply to make up tissues. The tissues form together to make organs. So, plant tissues. The plant tissues that are found in the epidermis are the epidermal tissues. These are tissues that are found on the outer layers of the plant, just like the epidermis of the skin of animals. We also have mesophyll tissues, which are formed of the collenchyma and the chlorenchyma tissues. We have what we call vascular tissues. These are the xylem, the meristemic tissues, the phloem, and the sclerenchyma tissues. All these tissues, the epidermis, the mesophyll, and the vascular tissues form what we call organs. Plants have only 3 organs. That is the leaf, the stem, and the roots. Let's do a recap. Plants have only 3 organs: the leaf, the stem, and the roots. And these leaves and stems and roots are formed by 3 types of tissues: the dermal tissues, which are the epidermis, the vascular tissues, and the ground tissues. So let's talk about plant tissues. In plant tissues, we have the dermal, which includes the epidermal cells. We have the meristemic tissues, which are the secondary tissues. We have vascular tissues, which form the xylem and the phloem. The xylem forms the truncates and the vessel elements. The phloem forms the sieve tube elements and the companion cells. We also have the ground tissues, which include the parenchyma cells, the collenchyma cells, and the sclerenchyma cells. So today we are only going to talk about one plant organ, the leaves. Since you know we have 2 types of plants, the monocotyledonous and the dicotyledonous. The mono means one, which means one seed formed from a seed that cannot be broken into 2. The di meaning the seed can be broken into 2. So the leaf of the monocot leaf is isobilateral leaves with parallel veins, and they have no petiole. The external features of a monocotyledonous leaf are the blade, the midrib, the parallel veins that you see, the sheathing at the leaf base, the smooth edges, and it has no distinct petiole. So the dicotyledonous leaf is dorsiventral, meaning the leaves are pinnate or has palm veins. The external features of a dicotyledon leaf are made up of the tip at the end, the midrib, the margins, the veins, the petiole, and the lamina. So let's do a recap between the differences between the monocot leaf and the dicot leaf. The veins of the monocot leaf runs parallel, remember, to each other within the lamina. They are called parallel venation. The dicot leaf, the veins and the veinlets form a network in the lamina, which is called the reticular venation. An example of a monocot leaf would be that of a grass, wheat, or a maize. An example of a dicot leaf will be a hibiscus, bean, a pear, or other large and big trees that you see along the roadside. The leaf functions and the structural adaptations. The leaf's main function is for photosynthesis, gaseous exchange, and water regulation. In photosynthesis, the thin, wide leaf palisade cells with many chloroplasts are the ones adapted to perform photosynthesis. For the function of gaseous exchange, the thin epidermis, the stoma, the spongy mesophyll with intercellular spaces are the ones responsible for gaseous exchange. The thick cuticle, the fewer stomata on the upper surface and many on the undersurface of the leaf are the ones that are responsible for water regulation. Let's do a recap. The function of the leaf is for photosynthesis, for gaseous exchange, and for water regulation. And the leaf is adapted to perform each of the function. The thin, wide leaves, palisade cells with many chloroplasts are the ones that are responsible for photosynthesis. The thin epidermis, the stomata, the spongy mesophyll with intercellular spaces are the ones responsible for gaseous exchange. Thick cuticles, fewer stomata on the upper surface and many on the underside are responsible for water regulation. So this is how the stomata will look like that is responsible for gaseous exchange. It is round, it is found on the epidermis, thin epidermis on the upper side, even on the lower side. It opens during the night so that it can absorb carbon dioxide, and it closes during and releases oxygen, but closes during the day when the sun is too hot. This is so to retain water and not to lose water. The cuticle and the stomata placenta are the ones responsible for water regulation. The cuticle is like a barrier that allows, it's like a door that allows movement in and out of the plant by closing and by also protecting with a thick waxy layer that protects the plant from losing water. Photosynthesis occurs in the palisade of the parenchyma cells within the chloroplasts. Chloroplasts are very green in nature so as to attract the sunlight and convert carbon dioxide into the sugars. So this is the process of photosynthesis. So sunlight energy hits the leaves of the plant, it's absorbed, then carbon dioxide and water combine with the energy from the sunlight and releases oxygen and turn the carbon dioxide and water into glucose. The formula of photosynthesis is 6 water plus 6 carbon dioxide plus sunlight equals to glucose plus oxygen. Did you get that? You get 6 water molecules, 6 carbon dioxides plus the sunlight, and then it is converted into glucose, which is made up of 6 carbon and 12 hydrogen molecules and 6 oxygen molecules, and also plus another oxygen that is released in the environment. So this is the structure of a chloroplast. This is how it looks like. It has a thick outer membrane. It has what we call the thylakoids, the granum, the stroma lamella, the intermembrane space, and the inner membrane space. This is where photosynthesis occurs within the plant, the leaves. So water movement of substances in the leaves. We have 3 processes that are responsible for water movement within the leaf. We have water movement where the xylem is responsible for moving water into the cells. This happens from the xylem into the cell wall, and this occurs through a process called osmosis. Osmosis is a process where chemicals or sugars move from a high concentration to a lower concentration. And in that process, they occur through a process what we call transpiration, where they form a balance between the solutions, between water and the sugar, so that they can reach an equilibrium. That is a state where it is balanced. There is not too much water or too much sugar. They are just in an equilibrium state. So the second movement is the movement of carbon dioxide and oxygen. It occurs through the stomata and the thin epidermis layer by a process known as diffusion. Diffusion is the movement of air molecules, which is carbon dioxide and oxygen, from a point of lower concentration to a point of higher concentration within the leaf. We also have glucose movement. Glucose movement occurs in the chloroplast through the phloem, through what we call active transport, because it requires energy. It moves throughout from the leaf into all parts of the plants through an active transport. So the differences between a xylem and phloem is that phloem vessels move sugars and water in a two-way flow. Water and sugars move in a two-way flow up and down. Cells have end walls with perforations to allow those sugar molecules to pass through from one cell to another through a process called osmosis. This is how it looks like. And then within the xylem, because it's responsible for moving water and minerals, it's only a one-way flow. Flows from the root straight to the leaves. No two-way. and then this happens through the thick walls, stiffened, and it has stiffened thick wall and lignin just to protect it so water does not flow easily out of the cells. So let's do a recap of the differences between the xylem and the phloem tissues. Their functions. The function of the xylem is to transport water and mineral salts. The function of the phloem is to transport organic food, which are mainly the sugars like glucose. And the flow. Xylem is one direction flow from the roots to the leaf, while the phloem is bidirectional, upwards and downwards, from the leaves into the roots, from the roots into the leaves. The tissue composition. The xylem consists of mainly dead cells, which are the vessels and the truncates elements. The phloem cells are living, which are the sieve tube elements and the companion cells. The cell wall thickness. The xylem has a thick cell wall with a lignin, so it protects water from evaporating from the plant, while the phloem has thin cell wall because it contains sugars. It is responsible for the transport of sugars. So the presence of the end wall. In the xylem, the end wall is absent in the vessels and forms as it grows continually. In the phloem, the end wall is present in the sieve tube elements with sieve tube plates. The support role. The xylem provide mechanical support to the entire plant, while the phloem provide little or no support at all. The energy use. The xylem use what we call passive process because it requires no energy, while the phloem requires active transport because it needs energy from the sun, energy that is converted into ATP. Now let us do a class activity. I'm giving you 5 minutes to answer these 3 questions. Question 1. Why is the palisade layer at the top? Question 2. Which features reduce water loss? Question 3. How do xylem and phloem interact? 5 minutes. Think about the answers from what we just learned, and then I'll come back to you. Okay, let us try and answer that together. Why is the palisade layer at the top? The palisade layer is located just beneath the upper epidermis of the leaf. It contains many chloroplasts, making it the main site for photosynthesis. That's why. Being at the top, it allows sunlight to the entire plants to receive maximum sunlight and improve the efficiency of photosynthesis. Did you get that? It's at the top because it has many chloroplasts, and since chloroplasts are responsible for photosynthesis, so it is able to absorb more sunlight in order for the plant to process that sunlight energy into photosynthesis, which will produce at the end sugar and oxygen for the plants. Question 2. Which features reduce water loss? The waxy cuticle of the plant. It covers the leaf surface, making it waterproof and maximum evaporation. The stomata, on the other hand, regulate. The stomata can close when it's too hot or open during cold days, also to control water loss from the plant. How do xylem and phloem interact? Remember, xylem transport water and minerals, while phloem transport the sugars. So in their interaction, the other one is able to transport water from the leaves into the roots, while the phloem transport, the movement goes up and down in order to keep the plant sugars and the water system balanced. If they don't do that, the plant will explode or shrink. If there's too much water, the plant might explode. If there's too much sugars, the plant will shrink. So the xylem work hand in hand in order to keep the solutions within the plants, the waters and the sugars, balanced. So let's do a recap. Photosynthesis is the process by which plants use sunlight to convert carbon dioxide and water into glucose and oxygen. Is it true or false? That is true. Stomata are responsible for transpiration and gas exchange. True or false? True. Xylem transports sugars. Is it true or false? False. Now here is your homework. Collect at least 3 different leaves, at least 3. You can collect more than that. From your garden, at home or neighborhood. Some should be from the monocot, like maize, grass or lilies, and some should be from dicot plants, e.g. the bean, the rose and the pumpkin. Observe each leaf carefully and record the following features in a table format. The leaf shape, type of venation if it's parallel or net-like, the presence of a petiole, the leaf margin, whether it's smooth, it has teeth, it's lobed. Use the features to classify each leaf as a monocot or a dicot. Thank you. This is the end of the lesson.